So let's talk a little bit about marketing. And marketing can just be thought of as a cost. How much does it cost you to capture a user and have them buy your product? And when you think about it that way, which is how you should be thinking about it, it's really interesting. We started with Maelstrom as kind of the benchmark, and Kommander after launch, and then when we needed to use it. So we've got a few different areas. So during Maelstrom, it was about $10 a user to capture that would likely act on that. So we use the metric of give us your email for a pre-order. And we ran a beta on that, and that was consistent. So after Ray has done his review, months later, we ran the same thing, a very short period, just kind of as a check. All right, let's see. And it was around the same. It would vary from $6 to $12 to get a user to come to the site to actually engage in ordering or giving over an email or anything like that. At the end of 2021, sales went stagnant. And we knew we needed to do stuff. We started working on features, and well, you can't get re-reviewed by the same people for a feature upgrade. I mean, that was the Hammerhead crew problem. Ray had said it's basically not the same thing it launched with, but like it's not new hardware, so it's like it's hard to do that review, and that is a new pending problem. More and more software features can be added over time, especially if people are looking into them like we were. So we can't get re-reviewed, so we need to now look at marketing and stuff. Now, we had, back in the Maelstrom time, we had tried Facebook ads and Google ads. And Facebook ads had about, per cost, like 2, 3, 4 times as many users. We got a lot of blowback by calling us like fly-by-night Chinese fake companies that aren't real. Like, I don't even know where that came from. But yeah, like we actually had to defend our brand, which was just a marketing test. So we pulled from Facebook because also the conversions didn't materialize. You could get 10 times the views and you would get a quarter, another, like it was 100 to 1. Google ads works. Facebook ads drives engagement. People will click on it to look at it, but they will never do anything. And that over and over, no matter how we try to optimize these things, it didn't work. So if you want to just see something, Facebook. If you want someone to do something, Google. And that held. And we reran just the Google side of it to confirm, all right, well, how much does it cost to capture Kommander users? $8 to $12. Well, come the end of 2021, our sales have petered out. They're very, very slow at this point. We still have product in stock. We started running Google ads. Well, prior to all the public AI stuff, Google rejigged how all their ad system worked in that year or year and a half. It was no longer $8 to $12 to capture a user. There were days where it was $150, but on average, it was $30 to capture a user. $30 US to capture a user. And that was not good. And it's just the algorithm has changed. And when it tried its learning stuff, that's when it got bad. Like hundreds of dollars to capture a user. When we forced our old learnings back into the system, it got better, but it never approached what it used to. So there's been an underlying change or an underlying market change, but probably an algorithmic change on making money. And it means that a small company 3 years ago, you could count on getting engagement in sales and stuff through Google ads, but now you can't. So Facebook ads didn't work. Google ads don't work. So there is no lower effort method now. There's only high effort methods and the natural reviewing method. But you can only get reviews when you launch new products, basically. So marketing basically became impossible. The cost of goods is just basically how much does it cost to make and ship a product. Now, when I talk of cost of goods, my labor and other people's labor, it did not go into it. But when you use a pre-certified module, your costs go up 5 to 10 times. So if you can have negotiated high volume, say tens of thousands, a few reels, you can start getting these chips that make up the NRF, make up the module, the RF module, for somewhere in around $1-2. If you're really savvy on supply chain and really good at talking about the future, 70 cents. You can get an NRF 52A32. I've seen lower than that. I'm sure Apple has much, much, much lower than that. But NRF modules, $10, $12, $15 each, even in volume, especially during shortages where they kept getting us, and they never helped us get any more modules, but boy, did they sure try and extract every piece of information to set up their supply chain. They didn't help us get modules, but they certainly harassed us. So our cost of goods, now we have expensive gold-plated connectors, expensive brand name spring pins on the inside to communicate to the board that ensures those buttons are waterproofed. And so each of those, I mean, right there, $7, even in volume. I have a reel of 2,000 of these MMCX connectors. Well, there's about, I don't know, 1,000 left. Like, they were $3 a piece. Like, or maybe $1.50. I can't remember, but they were expensive. And but then you have to talk about your losses, cost of goods. So ones that don't pass the waterproofing, or ones that have a blemish on the outside or something after you've assembled it, they don't pass. You got to rip them open, or you just throw them aside. It's back and forth on that. And so in the end, our cost of goods was $25 or $30. And like normally they say cost of goods should be 3 to 5 times. Well, labor's not included in there, so let's call it $40, $45 to build that thing. And people look at it and they think, well, the chip is $1. And I'm like, yes, but the module's 15 because they got to make their profit, and the distie got to make their profit, and I got to buy it, and someone has to ship it. And the net result is that is $15 or $12, or depending on which modules you get. So cost of goods is not that simple. It's just not. So shipping. It's hardware. It's got to get to where it's going. I alluded to this about how in the 8-Bit Guy's video, he talked about how anyone from the EU, basically, when they ordered anything, they were reaching across the pond into his pocket in Texas and pulling out $5. Same thing for me, except it kind of got worse thanks to Brexit. So Brexit versus the EU versus Australia. Because of Brexit, the customs was not set up to deal with that influx of anything from the EU and daily shipments and stuff. So my shipments got caught in that mess. And as a result of that, usually 45 to 90 days it took to process. Well, once things are hedging up to the 45, 50 days, I was getting nervous, customers were getting angry. So I offered what's called rescue shipments. Rescue shipments, quite simply, was, all right, British customs cannot be trusted to handle anything because of their own problems. DHL, courier, they'll handle customs, and I will assume the cost. So I offered, and about half of the people opted for it, rescue shipments. So I had to ship another unit at DHL. So that other unit was a cost of goods. That other unit was about, let's call it $35, plus the original unit, plus the $45 it cost me to ship it with DHL. They gave me 70 pounds. I lost, I don't know, it'll work out to something like $20 or $30 for every single sale in the UK. And the UK accounted for 25% of my sales. Now, the EU isn't as bad, but very early on we found out that people, and we did this for the UK as well, people want tracking information, but people will not pay for tracking information if the lowest option doesn't have tracking information. So we ended up having to behind the scenes upgrade everyone after the first few initial shipments of people getting really angry. We started upgrading them manually. That meant we were hiding, I don't know, 10, 15 euros a cost or Canadian dollars of cost. They didn't know. They now got a tracking number. They're still angry that it took so long to get there and get processed. And some of that was Canada Post's fault, and some of that was their local post office's fault. Sometimes customs in these countries, you're ordering through cross-border, and a lot of people in the EU do not understand what cross-border is anymore. And there was a few people who were just not used to it. And they got dinged with taxes and sometimes processing fees. Germany was the worst for processing fees, but they were also let a lot of them through. But when they did get dinged, it was usually places that were bad at math. So they would say $1 Canadian is equal to 1 European euro. Well, it's about a 40% difference. So then they got charged 40% extra tax, which at 20% is meaningful. And then they got charged a 20 euro processing fee, which, well, I can't do anything about that. Except to try and better communicate that to people. As a Canadian, we do a lot of cross-border shipping, and we just accept that going through customs and collecting taxes for your products, goods, and services is part of life. When you are in a unified economic zone, you kind of forget that. You kind of forget that the rest of the world exists and customs and borders exist. So Australia was actually quite easy, except it took like 2 weeks longer to get there. Same upgrading, a little higher cost, but very few sales from Australia.